If COVID-19 became a pandemic in 1990 rather than 2020, how would events have played out differently? Kids would have long work packets instead of online class. I wonder if they would have done a school TV broadcast on the public access channels. Edit. Wow, I didn't realize so many places were currently doing this. That's what happened in my country, Albania. This happened in my state in India too. Edit. Kerala. In case you're wondering, it's broadcasted on a single channel with time slots for different classes and subjects, 8 a.m. for first graders, for example, and is also uploaded to YouTube. Like a single broadcast for the entire region? I wonder what effect that has on the actual teaching staff. Teachers themselves have stayed fully employed in the US because they are generally still working directly with their own classes. This is how it works. Classes are broadcasted in a universal way, on an exclusive channel provided by the government. They're done in a way like what you'd expect from a site like Khan Academy or so. This class is then used as a base by the actual class teachers who are in contact with their students via Zoom/Gmeet or WhatsApp, to provide homework and assignments, as well as evaluate them. The teachers also clarify the doubts. The entire state follows a single syllabus and curriculum, so that makes things easier. Keep in mind that this is the government schools we're talking about. Private schools go pretty much like they do everywhere else. I bet they would've. My school district had a local cable station, but in the 90s not everyone had cable, so would there have been public assistance to get cable to everyone? The sad truth is that in some places this still happened in 2020. I work with some school districts that spent all spring handing out packets to parents every other week because they don't have reliable internet or a device. These happen to be in poor urban areas, but this is true in rural areas as well. Lack of internet access was already a problem before COVID. For my 4 years of high school, almost all work was done on computers. Quite a big problem for me, who didn't have a computer or internet at home. I would walk around town with an old iPod Touch looking for houses with open internet networks to type up papers. Exactly right, I didn't have internet for the first half of 2020, so I would have to go to the school every 2 weeks to get these huge packets full of schoolwork. This was true this year in the rural town in the Midwest that I grew up in. A lot of people still don't have internet there, and so they've been mailing homework packets to the kids. The kids haven't had any instruction from a teacher in months, they only get the packets. Zoom not an option. Even for the rich kids who have internet access at home, the local internet infrastructure is not good enough for video calling. As a software engineer, rather than remoting in, I could just dial in and download the 100-200K of source code and work on it at home. Security wasn't a real issue then. DOS text-based software. And instead of trying to work on the source with maybe 1,000 other people, your whole software team that might modify your module might be fewer than 5 people unless you worked for Microsoft. Yes, those were the days. Where the only other person that could be working on the same code is the guy sitting next to you, so you tell them you're changing commas. And then SVN gives you a merge error anyway, and it takes the lead engineer an entire afternoon to get the repo working again. Truly, the pinnacle of civilization. CBS, if anything, SVN didn't show up for another 10 years. Eckarts. Every box of cereal would have a limited edition collectible mystery mask in it that you have to submerge in water for an hour to activate the filter or some crap. Hypercolor masks. A girl in my class in 5th grade farted in her hypercolor shorts while at the board doing a math problem. I think about that like once a week. A girl in my class in 5th grade farted in her hypercolor shorts while at the board doing a math problem. I think about that like once a week. In 5th grade, a kid from another class named Linus visited us for an afternoon. We were singing a song, and right in a short moment of silence, he produced the most triumphant of farts, amplified by the reverb of the wooden chair he was sitting on. We continued our song, and at the end, he shyly remarked, "Sorry, it just bubbled out of me." I will never forget Linus and his bubbling fart. Sounds like a new children's book, Linus and the Bubbling Fart. The Great Blumpkin. F-man. In 9th grade, I was in Spanish class. The Japanese teacher had an off period, so would occasionally sit in on the class to learn some Spanish. She happened to be sitting next to me one day because it was near the door. In the middle of class, the Spanish teacher called on me to go to the board to go conjugate verbs or whatever. So I got up, but the moment my butt lifted from the seat, I let out the absolute loudest fart of my life. I was so embarrassed I couldn't help but belly laugh the whole way up to the board and about a minute at the chalkboard. Only saving grace was that I was a goofball, so some people thought I did it on purpose. I absolutely did not plan it, and like that kid in your story, it just bubbled out. Hey, listen doctor, there's this guy on the internet that constantly thinks about a little girl's shorts. Should I be worried too? It reminds me of the "when do we start to worry" bit from South Park. My neighbors are being eaten in front of me, should I start to worry? As someone who suffers from thinking too much about my own embarrassing moments, luckily not enough to need a therapist, I'm going to add that taking things you read on the internet to heart is generally not doing you any favors. I bet she does too. I just woke my husband up by laughing so hard. This is some funny crap. Poor girl. Don't forget, when you ask your parents to pick up that cereal, they come home with the regular box without the mask. Or the generic version in a bag. I think there would be a DARE-like cartoon mascot to promote COVID safety protocols. Mask it or casket. Sitting here looking at my Mark Martin with a North Carolina State Trooper poster with the giant "click it or ticket" on it, your comment is too perfect. I remember the state fair was a hellscape of clicking noises from those little novelty clickers they gave out for promotional purposes. Barry the Bat says wash your hands and cover your face. Keep 6 feet away from anyone's space. And don't eat me. Don't eat bats, said Mom to Mary, large and small or smooth and hairy, fat or thin or long and grimy, baked and dry or souped and slimy. Don't eat bats, she told her quickly, huge and healthy, short and sickly, round around or lean and bony, cooked in cheese or macaroni. Don't eat bats, her mom commanded, wide of wing or tiny-handed, from the next stall or the nearest. Don't eat bats at all, my dearest. I just got to say, your account has made me smile every time I've stumbled upon it. It's silly, but your poems make Reddit a better, more interesting place to be. Thanks for being silly and creative and letting us all be a part of it. So say we all. I can just hear the cheesy 90s hip-hop beat. My name is Dr. Fauci and I'm here to give a task. Musical note, just say no to COVID and be sure to wear a mask. Musical note, respiratory issues might just leave you out of breath. Musical note, so make sure to social distance, and you might just outsmart death. Musical note. The Beastie Boys performed this in my head. Nah Holmes, this was way over the top middle-aged white rap with 80s neon tracksuits. Elmore the elephant says, masks don't work and the virus isn't real. Sammy the scientist says, please don't listen to Elmore. And of course it'd be set to some super crafty rap music. Would this dare also go like the last one and end up showing kids how fun it is to break COVID safety protocols and how and where they can do it? I can already imagine how it would go. While you could be out partying with friends and having a blast, you should stay home and play Monopoly with your family. Look kids, I bet you'd love to host a fun party in that abandoned warehouse downtown at 301 Blue Street that can easily fit 200 people and is conveniently out of sight and earshot from the rest of town, so most likely won't be reported. After all, imagine the sort of games you could play: truth or dare, spin the bottle, beer pong. You could live your teenage years to the fullest, exploring your mind and bodies in an ecstasy-fueled night to remember. But you totally shouldn't do that. Now wear your masks and stay at home. Have you thought about how much more fun it could be to learn how to bake your own bread? You know what summer activity you can do this year that's really a blast? Teaching Nana to use Zoom and then interviewing her about local history. It's totally radical. COVID. Citizens outraged at very infectious diseases? I like it. Cover orifices versus idiot death, with a tagline of you choose. Well, DARE made my friends and I all start smoking weed in 8th grade, so maybe not. Pretty sure it created more drug users than prevented. This may be 100% Anecdotal nonsense. I certainly can't find data to back my hypothesis, but every dare kid I knew smokes weed now, and none of them participated in the local meth epidemic. Maybe reduce overall drug use isn't a good metric for success? If someone has data on this, please share. I would love to have a real answer, even if it disagrees with my experience. In the articles I've read about it, the danger came from equating drugs like meth with weed, so when kids smoked weed and nothing bad happened, they were less inhibited about trying harder drugs like heroin, cocaine, and meth. In the articles I've read about it, the danger came from equating drugs like meth with weed, so when kids smoked weed and nothing bad happened, they were less inhibited about trying harder drugs like heroin, cocaine, and meth. Story just went completely effing off the rails. They'd roll out a Smokey the Bear campaign too. X-Men cartoon telling you to wear a mask during cartoon time, including Wolverine, even though he'd be immune. Plot twist: Xavier and Magneto die of COVID and everyone becomes normal students and working adults. Cyclops is an aging, overweight building super. Friggin' pilot on the boiler is out again. Zap Jean Grey has been banned from the professional poker circuit. She hasn't had the same address for more than 3 months since. She doesn't remember. But bus drivers are lonely, too. She can usually figure out when a load of old biddies are being hauled out to the local Indian casino and clean up enough for deposit on a new place and a ticket out of town before anyone comes around asking questions. Storm hosts the only show on TWC that takes viewer requests. They all lose their powers when Xavier dies. He was the one. The only one with any power. Every other mutant was really just his imagination and enormous power simply willing reality to his whims. None of the tech works. None of the powers work. Nothing. It was all powered by him. I want to see this full plot play out. Like X-Men, Inception. Or X-Men, Lost? Or X-Men, Cerebro's Illusion. I don't know, but I dig the idea. They whispered, "It's happened. It's happened. He's dead. He's gone from this house for forever," they said. "Go gather the women, the children, the men. Go tell them it's time to be normal again." Crazy movie idea where Professor Xavier is a serial kidnapper where he believes all his victims are actually superheroes. That's kind of what Xavier is like in the Boys comic. He adopts orphans and gives them Compound V until they develop powers. Then he feeds them his fantasy of leading a superhero team until it becomes their fantasy. And he encourages them to lead a hedonistic lifestyle that's a rapier version of Brave New World. WTF, this sounds so insane and interesting. Do you have a link? The Boys is the comic. It's on Comixology.com. There's also a show on Amazon. When little Timmy met a man who said, "You're special, boy, and I shall teach you all I can," he went with hope and joy. "I'll help you learn to use your skill, and by the time you're through, with just a little work and will, you'll see you're special too." And so, with secret words of more, he took the boy inside. He slowly closed and locked the door. And Timmy effing died. They'd pester him, and be really annoying until he agreed to put on a mask. Spoilers for X-Men the animated series. Didn't X-Men have an arc where Bishop and Cable traveled back in time to prevent a plague? And it turned out it was made by Apocalypse? And it was resolved because of Wolverine's healing factor? Yes to all of those things, although the healing factor part was on the second attempt because the first time stopping Trask, who was spreading it if memory from 25 years ago serves me properly, caused a horrifying future because they needed the antibodies from the plague to stop some worse plague. In the end, Bishop went back and intentionally infected Logan to force the mutation and the antibodies so that his future wouldn't be ruined. Twice. Edit. My memory was slightly faulty. Cable went back in time after the first success to stop Bishop because his further future timeline needed the plague to exist. It was when they both wound up in the modern timeline that they infected Logan to solve both of their desires. And now you know, and knowing is half the battle. I don't know, but George Carlin would have been hilarious. You know what's wrong with the effing world? Republicans telling you a virus is a hoax and then being first in line to get the vaccine faster than effing Michael Johnson. Thoughts and prayers for you, but they want the real medicine. Honestly, this might be the most Carlin posthumous quote I've ever heard. That is 100% on brand with his punchline setup. I'm pretty sure that's a quote, or a spin on a quote, but I can't seem to find it. Edit, find it. YouTube link. Man, his bit about the rich folk sabotaging public education, wanting the poor folk to be poorly informed, rings so painfully true in the DeVos era. Dude is ridiculously prescient. Prescient. Yes, it's almost as if all the things he joked about were actually happening for decades. Same could be said of Orwell in 1984. History repeats itself, and due to this Carlin will be relevant for a long time. There's a club, and you aren't in it. That's why they call it the American Dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube. And share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.